So, very good evening, good morning to everyone listening in today. We have a very special guest on Every Journey Matters. This week, it is somebody who has a spirit of a firefly, I believe, but also the unending spirit of her being, be it in the work she does, be it in her journey so far, or where she means to move ahead from here. She has dreams and she's proud of it. She has written a book about it. And I can't be more excited to have her share this journey with us here. I present to you Shehnaz Soni. She is a common person, but an engineer in the NASA Huntsville station, and I'm very excited to hear everything about her. So welcome to the show, Shehnaz. So nice to have you.
Thank you, Avanti, and thank you for the beautiful introduction. And I'm excited to take this journey with you and see where we end up.
Yes. And I think, Shehnaz, when we spoke a week ago or a few days ago, I think we said that we will look at possibly putting your entire journey into two different portions or two different podcasts. One where we solely talk about you as a human being and your journey, so to say. But then the second one being you presenting yourself as a quantum being, which focuses more on how we ought to be and what we are beyond the skin and bones that we're actually. So let's begin with that humble journey. I know you come from Pakistan. How have you reached Huntsville? Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay. So it's interesting, right? It's funny because I just had a breakfast today at the Space Club where the woman, the leader who's going to take us to Moon and Mars, she's completely running the show at NASA. She spoke about why we're going to Moon and why we want to colonize Moon. And I was sitting there and I even asked her a question. And I was just thinking about my self-reflection of myself, because in that gathering, I have to say that majority of the people were white and few blacks. I mean, just to make a point. And then I don't think that there was any engineer woman from Pakistan sitting among the crowd of hundreds of people, right? And I was just thinking that, isn't it interesting how when you look back at your life and you realize where you started, right? And like you, if anybody would have shown you the video recording of what happened today, even for me, right? I would have been like, no, that cannot be me. Like, I mean, and then not only that, in that large crowd, I asked a very important question in an English language, right? And I was raised in a culture as a Orthodox Muslim conservative culture to truly not follow my dreams in a way, because I was kind of being raised pragmatically, right? My dad was very pragmatic. He knew that every single girl ends up in a kitchen cooking and, doing whatever to serve their husband, serve their in-laws, serve their new house, right? So basically they're groomed just for that one role. And it's all about how well you can perform that role. And that was very much kind of ingrained in me growing up. But the thing is that the fire that I had, and you called me Firefly, and thank you for that, because that fire is the fire that we have to take full responsibility of, right? Because nobody else can represent your fire. It's your built-in feature. And for me, that fire is the reason that I did not listen to my dad. I didn't even, and everywhere I would see girls being in the kitchen or girls doing things that are just more like a one aspect of woman,
Right.
And to me that was the thing. So the point is that that's how I started my journey, where I basically said no to things that I didn't agree with, and it required a lot more thrust, like that thrust, that power for me to stay on my journey. And there were times it was hard because you feel like you're walking alone, like that Flying Seagull, Jonathan Seagull book, right? Where the seagulls are all, and then so that is what I've done. And ultimately it was an arranged marriage. He brought me to Los Angeles.
Right.
And then pursuing my engineering at UC Irvine and all that, that whole journey brought me to Huntsville because of my aerospace engineering career. So, of course, I covered that journey in 4 chapters in my book. So I'm just giving a little preview that there was steps that I had to say yes and no to. But one of the things that I said yes in the whole process was yes to me. Like yes to me pursuing my dream. One of my dream was that I want to speak English one day. And I prayed because I prayed 5 times a day as a good Muslim girl. I prayed in every prayer that I would love to speak English. And I had no other way to speak English other than that I wanted to. And when I had arranged marriage and I came to LA, I had to learn to speak English because there's no way to survive in America without speaking English. So it opened the door. It took me 5 years to become fluent in English.
Okay.
And my dream came true. And not only that I speak English, I wrote a book in English, The Quantum Being.
It's brilliant. And okay, so I understand this dream that you talk about, that as a Pakistani Muslim girl, you've had culturally conditioned. And I think in Asia, pretty much, there's a lot of the conditioning where women are mostly looked at for taking care of homes and sort of building homes and making families a place to be. But what is that gave you the courage to say, no, that there's something different about me? When did you know this fire inside you, the spark inside you? When could you tell that, oh no, something is different about me, I cannot be like everyone else? When did that show up for you?
So that was an inner dialogue. Like I always knew, like I always looked up in the sky. I always looked at things at the atomic level, right? I would look at the flower, I would look at the leaves, I would look at the dew on the flower. I would say that what causes that to happen? Like why the flower smells that way? Like I always asked so many why questions that my mom was like, I mean, how it is in our culture. They don't answer you because they truly don't know. They're like, I mean, like, you just have to kind of like, you ask a question, you don't get an answer, but that doesn't change anything, right? So my thing was that everybody kind of said that this girl is different because she asks too many questions. She's very curious, right? So I was aware of the fact that I was different because everybody else was not asking questions. They were just following along. And for me, I was like, why do I do that? Or why do I do that? And why should I do that? So I think that the curiosity, that built-in curiosity, which I did do my best in asking, even though I didn't get a satisfactory answer, what it did to me was that when nobody gave me the answer, I decided to find the answer myself.
Right.
And that was the trigger.
And so when you went to school, for example, what were some things that you really enjoyed studying? Was there a connection to becoming a scientist? Did you like math or your physics? I mean, was there any science that you had already started to like,
Yeah,
space
when I went to school, it was kind of interesting because the more and more I was told that the school is not going to give you any kind of, that is not your calling, because ultimately you will be making, dishes in the kitchen. The more and more I was told that, I became very interested in school. So I was interested in chemistry, biology, math, every single subject. And I actually even taught physics when I was done in the high school. Like I coach physics because physics was one of the hardest subjects for general people. And the whole concept of electromagnetic field and things like atomic level, right? Because you're talking about things that you can't feel it, like you can't see it with your naked eye. And it was very hard for people to conceptualize it. And for me, I was able to live in that abstract world because for the most part, when I was with me, I was living in that world because see, I always lived in a world where that was my sanctuary.
Right.
Because that was where I would find myself asking questions and nobody's judging me because it was me talking to myself saying, it's safe, just be yourself, right? So for me, abstract became my safety and school became my safety. And that's why I became a valedictorian in my college. And it was a girls' college. And I even remember when I was standing in front of the podium, right? And all these girls are looking at me. And then I'm telling them that, I mean, I would have never imagined being a valedictorian considering where I started from.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is, and I can actually visualize the scene as you speak about it, Shehnaz. So it's quite amazing. Tell us a little bit about, when you when you were growing up, who were your role models? Whom did you look up to or learn from? Apart from parents, of course, I think we learn from them. But who else made an impact for you?
I think that it was kind of interesting because it was a combination, right? So I was very inspired by Gandhi. I was inspired by him because he was doing all these things that was very pattern buster. And even though, like, I was in Pakistan and there was a controversy on his character because he did represent Hindu, right? And we were Muslim and stuff. But to me, I felt like that he truly was born, like, how you say, at the wrong place, at the wrong time with the right message, right? I mean, that's how Gandhi was, right? Because he was not accepted at the time, just like scientist Tesla, for example, Nikola Tesla. So there are times, but even with us, like being Muslim, like Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa, right? So he is always like a biggest source of inspiration for Muslims because the whole idea is that he followed the book, the holy book that we should follow as a good Muslim, and he exemplified everything that was in the book. And if you really think about him, what he was preaching and teaching, whether you're a Muslim or not, if you actually do that, you can be the best human being. So to me, that recipe was a great recipe. Plus, I really was inspired by him because one of the thing about him was that he didn't have any special power. Like he wasn't like a, like born with some special healing ability or anything, but he was a regular human being who lived a regular life. And then he marries a woman who is basically older than him, which is very much unheard of in a Muslim culture, especially that the man going for like more than 20 years older woman and respecting her, and she was the most important person in his life, right? So all of that, like he represented somebody who didn't follow the norm. He represented somebody who busted the patterns, and I think I could relate to him because I truly wasn't following any norm by any means, and I had no idea where I'm going to end up, but I was taking that quantum step, right, in my life by saying yes to me no matter what.
Ah, that's beautiful. And I think when you talk about Gandhi, for example, and there's no saying whom he supported, whether it was the Hindus or the Muslims, or for one unified India, which unfortunately had to break into Pakistan and India and create the big rift. And so, not going too much into history, what I love about you speaking about disrupting patterns is that you were able to bring down from the pedestal Prophet Muhammad or Gandhi to say that they are regular human beings. They are not somebody that should only be praised or prayed to or idealized, but to bring them to a level of a human being, to say that this is what a person can do, and sort of see those patterns building and creating a persona of your own, which you could relate to. I think a lot of us, we tend to idolize people, be it celebrities now in Bollywood, be it cricket players, be it people who've established or companies that have become really big. I think where we falter is that we think we can never become as big as them, that we cannot get to where they have got. And so we kill our dreams even before we begin dreaming.
That is very true.
Because we think they're too big for us to even catch up to or think about. And I want to see this as an example, and which is why I think you are particularly inspiring as an example, to say that you were able to see these people as humans, just another person who went and created extraordinary outcomes. So coming back to you, so then you were able to step out of these patterns because you wanted to see what's out there. What was that question you were following, Shehnaz? What was that pursuit? What were you curious about through these questions?
I think I was curious about that. What, like, is life only what I see, or is it more to the story, right? Because when I would look up in the sky and I would say that, like, okay, like if I go and touch the cloud, then what's above it, right? It was almost like to me, like I've always been like that free-spirited human being who wants to understand what my boundary is and how far does it go, and whether what I think is a boundary truly is or not, you see? Because how else are you going to know? You have to go all the way to the edge of the universe and then say, okay, I can see that I can't move past this point. So now, and that's not a good feeling for someone like me. So I wanted to just know that how far can I go, and what is that boundary if there is one?
Oh, brilliant. And in this exploration of boundaries, Shehnaz, yes, you've reached where you are today, but have there been any challenges on the way? I mean, have you had some really tricky situations when you've challenged boundaries? Have you had negative experiences? Tell us a little bit about that.
Lots of challenges, right? So the very first challenge I had was that at the age of 7, I was born in a cult where they do, female genital mutilation. I went through that, right? So that was my first challenge. At the time, I know that was extremely painful. The thing that challenged me when it happened was not even the pain or what happened. I mean, it did challenge me, but the thing that upset me was that when you go through that process, your mom takes you to a house where somebody else takes you to this house where they do it. And then your mom is no longer in the picture, and you're hurting and you're crying and you're saying, mom, 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 but there's no mom because mom can't see that, right? And then when you're done, you're being told that you can't talk to anyone about what just happened, not even your own dad. So it's a very hush hush thing. So, and then, for a few days you're bleeding and, all that stuff. So it was, and of course for me, fast forward when I come back to at the age of 21, coming to America, and then I'm having this conversation with my new friend. And for whatever reason, something comes up where I mentioned that, and she's like completely like shocked because she's never met anyone like me, right? And I'm like, oh, and she's like, oh, so that's when it dawned on me that what happened to me was very wrong, right? I didn't know up to that point that it was wrong, you see, because it was part of my life. So
Yeah.
that was pretty, and if you think about it, right? I mean, now I have been to mystery school. I understand this, the sacral chakra. I understand that it's a house that houses our creativity. So if you think about it, it's a pretty big, it's a wing clipping that is occurring in our culture that is not right. And not only that, it happened. And then when I became aware of it, and even in my book, I write about it. And the very fact that I was told that I should not mention it to anyone about it, at no matter what age you are. And even right now, like it's a pretty big deal. Like, they don't encourage people to talk about it. And to me, how are we going to solve the problem if we don't even talk about the problem?
So you mean to say this is happening even today?
Yes.
And
yeah,
and
we're doing it.
I have never met anybody who's gone through this experience, and I don't know whether to say that I'm sorry that it happened, because I don't understand the entirety of it. Can you tell us a little bit about it, or do you feel comfortable sharing? Or
yeah, so basically it's called, it's referred as female genital mutilation, and the idea is that they cut the skin, on top of the clitoris in a way that the idea is that they use it in the name of the religion. They say that it's good for holiness, it's good for purity, but there are many connotations to it. There is one connotation that they do it so that you don't feel the sexual pleasure, so that way the chances of you running away on your man would be lower because you don't really feel much there. So you are not going to be driven by that urge to follow someone else.
What to say? Oh, I see. Okay. Uh-huh.
So
And right, and thank you so much for sharing that. And this happens even today, in some sections.
It happens today to the part of the cult that, I mean, and I have to clarify that it doesn't happen to all the Muslim girls. It happens to only the sect that is part of, so Islam, it's divided in Shia and Sunni. And then under the Shia, there is Bora. That's where they're doing it. And when I got done, I was 7 years of age, but now they're doing it at the 3 years of age.
Right, right.
So they changed the age.
And again, I think we're in no position to say whether it's right or wrong. I think when you look at it from a cultural perspective, Shehnaz, there are reasons why people believe they should do it. When we look at it from a scientific perspective, maybe it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't relate to us at all in our new sort of lives and sort of our cultures now that you and I are living in. But I don't believe in canceling any culture either. So I, so giving respect to what you have been through, was it then this urge to break out of these boundaries, to say, I have had so much done to me, I want to release all this? Is that how you went in to do something so fantastically amazing? Did that give you the energy? Did it push you to move into becoming a scientist?
That drive was always there. As long as I was conscious, I'm aware of my curiosity. I don't know if it actually kind of shunned me down, because I was very active in my school. I was very much into singing and debates and everything. And right after that happened, I used to do table dancing, but it completely killed my spirit, to the point where I completely stopped. I was no longer doing anything in the school. My entire creativity was like stumped on. Plus, I was told continuously that you have to be in the box, you have to be in the box, because I was going to school in the daytime, and then I would go to madrasa during the evening. And then I was very studious. So for the most part, I was very much like kind of a little bit more into, like in that phase, like where you feel like you're not a child, you're just going from one school to another school, and then you're always following what you're not supposed to do, right? So I don't think, like, I mean, I don't really think that, like, I think that in spite of that, I've come a long way. I don't think that I had to go through that to become this extremely incredible person. I personally think that all the people that goes through that, it kind of kills something in them. And not a lot of people are able to do what they need to do, because it does tinker with your creativity. And to me, I don't think that, like, I have to be very honest with you. The reason I probably brought it up, I wasn't planning on, but the reason I brought it up is that I don't think that there's any reason they should do it personally. And whatever justification they've come up with is nonsense. That's what I believe, actually. And I think that the irony is that the people who are responsible for all that, they should help. So one of the things that I did when I became aware at the age of 21 that this is wrong is that I started telling, like, my sister had 3 daughters. So I told her, please just, and she lives in Paris. But the thing is, it doesn't matter where you live. People go to Pakistan to get it done. So you take your children at whatever age they're supposed to get done and do it. It's a hush-hush thing. Nobody talks about it. You do it under the cover. Even the Pakistan government, I don't know if they know or not. But the point is, it's a hush-hush thing. And that's what I'm talking about. So I'm just saying that it's time that we raise the awareness, right? I mean, if let's say that somebody's listening to this conversation that you and I are having, right? And if they completely disagree with me, let's say, right? And they're going to do what they're going to do, right? That is fine. That's their choice. That's their free will, right? But let's say that if somebody's listening to this conversation and they're saying, oh, I had no idea that that's can affect me to that soul level. Oh my God, no, I don't want that, right? Now that's the type of people I want to reach to.
Yeah, and it creates a choice. And I think it is by talking and by sharing these stories, I think, where we always have a choice in the moment, whether we want to do what we have always done or we want to break that pattern and make a different choice. The outcome will be different. We will not follow religion, but it doesn't mean we are disowning it. It just means we are respecting ourselves while being respectful to the religion. You still call yourself a Muslim, even if you do not believe in this one practice. Is that right, Shehnaz?
Yeah, because I don't even think that was part of the practice that was stated in Quran, or Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa said that. That was just part of the cult. And that's why I even use the word cult, because to me, that's what happens with religion. And you all know that, right? Religion can have a certain doctrine, but then it's the human being, right? Because it's people. People are the one who can tailor it, change it, twist it, turn it, rewrite it, right? So at the end of the day, you're dealing with a lot of that. In every religion, there is that. And to me, as the quantum being, we should have that choice. And the reason I'm even mentioning it is because I was not asked. I was just thrown into that fire, right? It would be good. And at the 3 years of age, if they even ask a girl, I mean, the girl has no clue. You're so young, you have no understanding what that means. And at the age of 7, probably I would have had understanding. But the point of the story is, no, you are not asked. The mother is not asked. It's just like you go from first grade to second grade in school. It's part of that system. And they've created a system where if you're born in that community, you have to do it. It's just the way it is.
I love that. I mean, there's one question that pops up when we go through what we are going through. I love this conversation. What is your relationship with your mother, for example? She must have been a devout, or she probably is a devout Muslim, and she is still in this community, potentially living there and believing in these rituals. How have you managed to balance the walking away from your rituals, but still being in touch with your relationships? How have you managed that balance?
That's a pretty good question. And I think a lot of people can really, because I have attracted a lot of people who struggle with that, like especially being, like one foot in one culture and religion and the other one in that. So I think that it's interesting, the way I have balanced everything in my life is by continuously coming back home to me. Because at the end of the day, the person you have to live with is you, right? And if you can't live with yourself, you can't definitely live with your mom or dad or brother or sister or anybody for that matter. The thing that has happened with my mom, because my mom was raised in a very, very religious family. She came from a family where they were very, like followers, very good people. And my mom was a very good wife, and she was a homemaker. She was raising children. So it's kind of interesting because I've tested my mom a lot, because the person that I have become, my mom never experienced that life, right? Because she was a good homemaker woman who always obeyed everybody. And here I am not obeying. Not only that, I'm not obeying. I stopped following the religion like 23 years ago. And I basically was like a switch off. I'm like, I'm done. And I just want to get to know me through me, not with any of the traditional upbringing that I've had. And when I made all those decisions, and even when I divorced my first husband, whom I married through arranged marriage, and it was very hard on both of my parents to understand me, because first of all, they're thinking that how is she going to raise the boys by herself? How is she going to, she's just a girl, how are you going to do all that? Plus, she lives in a foreign country. So there was a lot of things that I tested my mom and dad in ways that they could not imagine. But the thing that was interesting about them was that they could see that it didn't make any sense to them. They didn't think that what I was doing was right. But they also knew that they can't even help me, because they don't have any clue how to survive in a foreign country and raise a child and pay all the bills, because they never lived here. They are from Karachi, Pakistan. So the good thing in that was that they were very much confused about my decision. They probably didn't agree with me. They also said they cannot help me. But then they saw me how I survived. And not only that I survived, I thrived. And I think that in that walk that I did, in spite of all that, and not doing something to please them, because I already did that. I was a good girl up to the year 2000. I married a man that they, 1 hour talk, and I married this man because it was part of my culture. I did everything that I was being groomed, in spite of the fact that I had this fire inside me burning. But then when I divorced him, after 10 years of being with him, my dad basically said that, you lived the life that we wanted you to live. Now you want to live a life that we have no idea how you're going to do it, but you want to live a life your way. And the fact that you gave a chance, because I was 29 years old when I made that decision, like I gave them my 29 years. I did exactly by the book. I was a pious Muslim girl. My mom would use me as an example. And then I turned the switch off to every single thing that I was that point, right? So the good thing about that was that when I did that, it requires balls. And I think I have to say that I had balls. So the point is that when I did that thing, that huge thing, one of the things was that I was very open to my parents. Even though my parents were not living in America, I could have easily lied to them, right? I could have said, yeah, I'm praying, and I wouldn't have prayed, right? I could have easily lied because they were not in my life day to day. But I never do that, because to me, the people that I'm close to, they have to know who I am. And if they don't like me, then they don't have to be with me. That was
you owe them your honesty.
I own it. And I can tell you one example where my parents were visiting me, and I had just beginning to understand red wine, and I drank some and I liked it. And it's completely forbidden, right? In Islam. And I had this island in the kitchen, and it was beautiful wine cellar thingy, like a wine holder. And then we are inviting my uncle and aunts. They're all devout Muslim, right? And my mom and dad are visiting me. And my mom comes to me really politely and says, will it be okay if we can just hide this wine cellar, while they're visiting us? I mean, if you think about it, and it's not like we're planning on drinking wine or anything. I'm not going to force anything like that. And I looked at my mom and I said that, you know what, Mom, I know that it bothers you because it is a wine that is forbidden in Islam.
Mm.
I do drink it occasionally. I was not like, once in a while I do drink it. I do not want to change anything about my house just because somebody's coming to my house. If they don't like it, they don't have to come again. And that's how I created a boundary, because my mom knew that I'm not going to change a single thing. And even though it was a harsh truth, but that's how you train other people, whether they are your mom, your dad, your brother, is that you're not going to change for them. And if anybody has any problem with you, then they can not be in your life.
That is fantastic. I mean, what a plethora of questions I have. I mean, I can go on for a long time on this, but I mean, one is, I think, to find yourself, you need to put in some work to find out what you truly are, right? The inner self that we talk about. And I think you did that pretty much after you went to the US. You saw how things are different from you. And this is how I'm thinking you were. But then in the 10 years of marriage, and then when you got divorced, that probably changed you in a way where you stood up for yourself in a very, very unique way. How did you get that strength? I mean, did you build it over time, or what gave you the clarity of the boundaries that you now speak about? That's not very spoken about in the Asian cultures. We don't talk about boundaries. We don't talk about self-worth so much. So how did you teach yourself, or what came around to you? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so you know what? It was built over time, going through so many trials and tribulations, right? So I'll tell you, and I'll give a little summary because it does get pretty heavy, right? It very fast. So as you can see that at the age of 7, I went through that, right? Then the whole life I was told no in so many things, it was not even funny. Then I knew I had like guys coming to me when I was like, in my teenagers. And I knew that if anybody falls in love with me, and if I fall in love with them, the chances of my survival is very low. Because, like the whole thing about, like the parents never agree to that. And then they make your life difficult. And sometimes people go after you and try to kill you. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of shit there, right? So I was very aware of those type of things. So I was like, no matter how much I like a boy or anything, I'm not going to reciprocate if they send me love letter, right? So I was very aware of that. And I knew that I'm going to have to follow the arranged marriage route, because that's the route that was. And then when I had a 1-hour interview with this man, my first husband that came, and then one of the reason I did have a choice to say yes to him, even though the only person you get to experience that with is the one that gets filtered by your mom and dad, because they have to first like them. And then, but the reason I liked him is because he was kind of opposite of my dad, which I liked him because my dad, I felt like it was very challenging for me to survive him, because he said no to me on my education. And this guy was different. But the second thing is, I asked him that, can I pursue my education when I go to the United States? And he said, yes. That's why he was picking me, because I was a valedictorian, because he knew that even though I didn't speak English, I could survive in a culture because I have it in me, right? So the reason I'm sharing that is that became the reason for me to come to state. But when I came to state, and then the fact that so many things, right? Language, culture, not only that, the man that I married, he told me on a wedding night that he was in love with someone else. So all of that, not only that, then I come to LA and enter into the studio apartment and realize no bed, realize no money, realize he has a negative bank balance, realize he couldn't even afford my ticket. I was like, and realized I couldn't even make a phone call to my parents, which is a 1 minute at the time it was $1 per minute. I'm talking about 1992.
Right. There was no WhatsApp, no Skype then. So
no cell phone, right? So the thing is, all that. And for the first year when I was in America, it was the hardest year of my life because I cried every night. He would leave at 8 in the morning. He would come late 12 at night because he was a hardworking man. And we were living in this apartment where there was no place for me. And I realized that I had to make money right away because, there was no way we can afford anything. And so I was learning English learning what the money looks like and learning how to wear jeans and working in a dry cleaning shop. That was my first place to work. I was doing it all at once. And there were times like it was a very hard life. And I think that all the things that I had to do to go through those steps to be, and then I become a mother for the first time. And then when he was 7 months old, I learned that he had a stroke, and his right hemisphere and temporal lobe is damaged. And I was told that, he's not going to be able to walk, he's not going to be able to talk. And so I have been raising that child, right, for 10 years too. So in that 10 years, I'm just saying that I went through so much to kind of keep on keeping on, that by the time I got to the point when I actually knew that this man, I cannot walk with him because he was very controlling. And when I even announced it to my family and they were not agreeing with it, and I actually, my husband actually at the time said that, your daughter is completely crazy because she wants to divorce me. So you need to come and put some senses in her. So my parents came and stayed with me for 3 months just to talk me out of that divorce while I was still living with my mother-in-law and my husband and the two small boys. The interesting thing that happened in that 3 months was that even though my parents didn't agree with any of that, my dad, because he saw a lot, he saw that how I was treated in that household. He saw that I was bringing the same money home as an engineer, but still not the same level of treatment. So one night, in the middle of the night, he comes to my room, knocks at the door, and he tells me that I see why you want out, but I want to tell you that I'm not going to be able to help you because I don't live here. I don't know the culture. You're going to be completely on your own. But one thing I want to tell you is that I'm not going to be in your way, whatever decision you make. And that's all I needed. Because to me, even though, so the fact is, because, dad represents that powerhouse. And the fact that he told me, my mom didn't say any of that, but my dad did, it gave me the courage that, yes, it's going to be all on me. But the thing is, my dad is not going to try to stop me. And that to me was the biggest blessing of my life.
That his blessings were important and that his hand over your head was what would allow you to step in to your new you fearlessly. That is a story of strength and fortitude, Shehnaz. I mean, not too many people get to actually see that side of struggle, right? I mean, in these days of social media and fame, I think you see only what people have achieved after a very long journey of tireless strength and courage. That must be, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it is the amount of courage that it must have taken you. I cannot imagine, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, that is the thing, right? That it's like what gets you there keeps you there. I say that in my book a lot because to me, that is the reason by the time I came to the point at the crossroad where I knew I had to do, and it was not easy because, my son is a special child, right? He has a cerebral palsy and he was only 4 years old and my other one was 2 years old. And here I am in this foreign country, never lived alone. And now I'm going to take this new journey as a single mother, living in this place where I have no support because I have no family here. And that was the life that I started in the year 2000. And I think that when you come to that type of place and then somebody wants to just hide something to make sure that somebody doesn't feel bad about it, that doesn't count anything because I'm like, I don't care because nobody's there to wipe my tears off when I'm in the closet struggling with life. Nobody's there to feed me or buy me groceries. So why would I do anything for anyone at this point?
I have to take care of me and my sons. That is the most important thing, and that matters. Wow. So there is a lot that has happened here. So how did you build your life from zero? I mean, you probably got some settlement from your divorce or not entirely. So you had some savings to, take care of your kids. But how did you manage studying and, sort of getting your degree and also managing kids? What was your support system like?
So the good thing was that when I got married and I came to States, one of the thing was that my husband basically wanted to make sure that I finished my education first because I already was not speaking English. So I had to learn English, then I had to get admission, and then I had to afford the education, right? Because, you have to become a resident. So there's all these processes and steps to take. So I was actually, because I was brainwashed into this mindset that you get married and you have a child. And I was like ready to dive into that process because I was following the like what I was being groomed to do. And that was one thing I have to say thank you to my first husband, because he was already living in America for 12 years before he, married me. So he knew the culture. He knew that this is going to require some effort for her to get acculturated, learn the language, plus get the admission, and then do something like electrical engineering. That's not an easy fate. So he told me right from the get-go is that I would like us to have a family once you get your degree.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that he put it as a condition. And he was technically my, he was my husband. He was also, like, we use the word majazi khuda. You've heard that word, right? So majazi khuda is an Urdu word, which means that he is kind of your second God. I mean, he's basically your God, because, the culture expects that when you marry the man, you marry them for life, and then they become somebody that you please them, you look up to them, you listen to them. They are your guardian in every which way. And of course, I'm in this foreign country where I have no clue about. So he was my man who was calling the shots. And I'm glad that he actually put that condition in. So that helped me, because it took me 5 years of, getting my degree in electrical engineering, going through the process of doing all the prerequisites, and then also making sure that I actually have this joke, because I went to UCI, and I kind of say that it stands for University of Chinese Immigrants, because there were more Chinese at UCI than anybody else. And the professors were all Chinese. They were brilliant, but they were all Chinese and they had accent. And I was struggling with English, and then I'm learning engineering from someone who also struggles with English. So it was not easy. It was like double entendre, you know what I mean? But the point is, so basically, I think that it helped in that sense. But as soon as I got my degree, then I became pregnant, and but my first child was special, which kind of made it really hard. So now I'm full-time doing my corporate career as an engineer, and I have a child who's special, and I'm living with, a mother-in-law and a husband, and, Desi culture. And then, so yeah, it was not easy by any means, but you know what, that is what makes you, the diamond, right, is made under pressure, right? So I had to go through all that.
This is such an epic movie I think we can make. I hope Bollywood is listening and looking at this podcast and taking some inspiration to make their next blockbuster. What a journey so far. I mean, the idea of creating your own identity through a tough marriage, through being in a situation which, I mean, I think normal parenting is challenging enough with 2 healthy children, but then also one when you have a special needs child. I think that adds on some sort of stress and, responsibility, an additional layer of responsibility to you. So what change did you see in yourself as you became a mother, and how did that add to this grit of shining the diamond? How did it help you?
One of the things that happened with my son being the way he was, that it was so hard to teach him anything, because it wasn't like as simple and straightforward. Like for him to learn to walk, was like it took a long while, right? And then, like, for example, like when I was teaching him to put a socks on, right? Because his left hand was always like this. Like he would put his hand like this, okay. I mean, we kind of use the word Tyrannosaurus, but it was like always like that. His left foot was never touching the ground. So because he's hemiparesis, his right hemisphere controls your left side, right? So he was basically curled up. And so even then, like, I'm not giving up on him. It took me the longest time to teach him how to put his socks on with his curled up hand and, one normal hand, but still. And for whatever reason, I did not give up. Like I wanted him, like there were times when everybody else would say that he will never learn.
Okay.
And I never accepted that. Like I never accepted that. It was interesting how that fire in me, and that's why, see, I'm telling you, I was groomed for this role. I didn't know that growing up, that the reason I went through all that and not accepting everybody else no is because I was chosen to be a mother of a child, that if I keep accepting everybody's no, I will never help him reach his high potential. So I was being groomed for that role. So I think that it was not easy, but it was very frustrating. But at the same time, like for me, if I decide something, I don't give up. I don't give up on me. I don't give up on the person that I'm helping. And to me, I would go as far as I can go. I mean, like there is just the saturation point is pretty, it's my threshold is different than other people. And I think that's the reason I have come as far as I have, is because my son taught me patience. He taught me like how hard it is. And then there were times I would cry for him because I would see the struggle, because he was different. He had no friends. He never was invited to any birthday party because, people, the human being are really, everybody's out in general looking for, like, people don't have a lot of compassion. Let's just say it. It's just, I didn't see that there were people having compassion for him as much as I was hoping for, right? And as a mother, you feel like now you have to fill up that bank for them as well. It is hard.
And I think especially when it comes to a child with special needs, a lot of people don't even know how they can support the child or be fair to a child. And so I think now we have resources, YouTube, and we have so many other information sources that we can read up and sort of understand how we can bond with children who are different from us, and we could be different too. So I think we're learning better now, but I think when you had your son, you probably did not have so much openness to people coming and enjoying that difference that he held in himself. So I hear what you say. Wow. And so, they say that a true parent is one who is willing to learn from their children. And so when you say that your son teaches you so much, it shows also the amount of humility you have and the amount of respect you have for what your children bring to you, which is such a heartwarming thing, Shehnaz. That is so cool.
I mean, yeah, the children definitely are your biggest teacher, because when they come in your life, first of all, you are responsible for them, right? Because they don't know how to walk, they don't know how to do anything. Not like Animal Kingdom where they're just built in, right? They know what to do, and then you are just like ready to kick them out of the nest. It doesn't work like that for us, right? It's a pretty long journey, and plus it's a lifetime journey. It's not just even a journey that they turn 18 and then they leave. You're connected for life with them, and there is a reason that that you come in that union. So to me, yeah, I mean, the fact that I've been raising 4 boys, and I have done my best job in that as much as I could, and now I'm at the point in my life that, okay, I can serve more what I need to do for humanity in a larger way, which is why I'm opening the door for these type of exchange that I'm having with you, because I've been pretty busy, as you can see, with life and challenges one after another and all of that. And now I'm sitting down and saying, okay, you know what? It's time that I share the wisdom I've acquired with all the moms, with all the dads, with all the human beings, because it's time that people can, avail other people's wisdom, because we're all connected. That's why I wrote the book Quantum Being, because we're all connected. You and I attracted each other because we wanted to have this convergence, this quantum convergence. So to me, this is the time that we share with others, because I want to share with others so that if I can help them in any which way, just even by my conversation, then I feel like my life today was worth it, that I'm still here on this planet Earth.
I think it's worth it. Amen. To a different extent. And Shehnaz, I hope by using this platform, by providing you this platform, I hope you've inspired so many more girls, so many more women, or men for that matter, to support their wives, just the way your husband did too. I mean, it was unfortunate the marriage didn't last for very long, but I think maybe he just showed up in your life for that bit, for a reason. So,
oh, exactly.
I hope men and women are equally inspired. But I think we're now close to the end of an hour, Shehnaz. What amazing time this is. But no conversation would be complete without knowing what your day looks like at NASA. Tell us a little bit about what is a typical day. Do you get coffee in NASA? Do you have croissants? What do you have? I mean, it must be really swell. Tell us a little bit.
Well, that's the difference. It's funny because, yeah, so you just have to buy your own coffee and croissant. But the good thing, yeah, it's not like SpaceX. My God, when I went to SpaceX, and I have worked in many different aerospace companies, I've traveled all over the world for my job. And SpaceX was the best place to work. By the way, if you really are wanting to become an engineer so you can have like a good coffee and croissant, then you want to go work for SpaceX, because they charge you $5 for the breakfast, but it's so much all you can eat buffet, and drinks, all the coffees and everything is 100% free all the time, because they want you to work hard. So basically you can have any drinks you want, latte, whatever, it's all free. So that's SpaceX. NASA, it's a government, right? It's a federal agency, so they don't have those freebies. But working for NASA, definitely the day looks like, right now I'm working as a senior system integration engineer. My job is I'm in a team supporting the cross-program integration across for the Artemis program, which means that my job is to connect Orion capsule, which is where the astronaut is going to be residing in when we go to the 1 week stay on the dark side of the moon.
Okay.
Working together with the SLS rocket, the one that's going to rendezvous with the Orion capsule on the non-rectangular halo orbit when we go to this moon stay.
Right.
Works with the Starship that the SpaceX is going to bring to the non-rectangular halo orbit, so it can pick up the astronaut from there and take it to Starship, which is a SpaceX product. And then the Starship is going to take those astronauts to the surface of the moon, right? So the thing is that this convergence that we're creating, my job right now is to make sure that all these programs like Orion and SpaceX and Boeing and NASA, and then Johnson Space Center, where all the mission is going to be managed by, and then the outfits are going to be made and so forth, are all talking to each other in a way that they are compatible. That's my job right now. So my day looks like, meetings, trying to solve problems, making sure that everybody is talking to each other in the right way, making sure we are not having huge issues, like issues that come up, for example, is that if the Orion has a hatch and the hatch size is not open wide enough for the astronaut to pass through with their suits on, then we have a problem. So how are we going to solve that? You see my point? So it's kind of like that. Like, we have problems, we solve it. We need to make sure everybody plays together, because when you're dealing with something like that, you have Orion involved, you have Johnson Space Center involved, and then so forth. So yeah, it's like a fun ride. You attend meeting, you solve problem, and you feel good about what you're doing, because at the end of the day, we didn't come here to live on Earth. We came here to explore Earth and explore cosmos. And that's what I'm doing.
Oh, I love that. And do you hope to get onto the moon sometime soon? Is it possible for an engineer to then pick up these skills to become an astronaut, or does that not go hand in hand?
I mean, if you really want to, then you can. But the thing is, just like, just like becoming a ballet dancer, right? If you want to become an astronaut, it helps when you're being groomed at the younger age, because, you have to have a certain type of physiques, certain type of credentials. It's a very hard core program that you have to be part of. You go through a very extensive training and all of that stuff, right? So to me, I didn't as you can see, that I'm an astronaut in my own way. Just having to live on Earth has been pretty hard for me, but and it has been like trials and tribulations. But I was very happy when I was working on space station and I was part of the orbital anomaly team, where you get to stay on Earth and you talk to astronauts while they're inside of the space station. And I was part of that team. So to me, I'm good with talking to astronauts as an engineer and helping solve the problem. I don't necessarily have to become one, but I admire the one who has chosen that path, because it does come with your physiques being really good, because your bone density does get affected when you are in a microgravity. And it does take a toll on your health, which is why you have to work out for 3 hours every day, minimum, to keep up. So that's why they are looking for, young blood who wants to be groomed for that role, because you want to be really groomed for that role, because it is not a job just that anyone can do.
And so how long have you been with NASA then? Has it been in the last few years, or have you seen Kalpana Chawla? Have you worked with her, or tell us a little bit? No.
Yeah, so it just so happened that, because when she came, actually, I just moved to Houston when that incident occurred. So I was not even in Houston, and Houston is where she was. But I was actually surrounded by astronauts, because I lived exactly where all the astronauts, in the same neighborhood where astronauts were. So I was part of that when it happened, and how, it was very tragic and all that, right? But yeah, so it's just, I've been working for NASA directly the last 6 years. But before that, I was working for Boeing, which always was working with NASA, which is why I was part of the International Space Station. So I've been an aerospace engineer for over 20 years. And in that, I worked with NASA, I worked with Missile Defense Agency. So I have foot on both. So I worked on missiles that can protect us from North Korea and Iran. And I have worked on space station and rockets that can take us beyond cosmos. So I'm covering both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. Oh my God, such a cool CV that is, Shehnaz. I mean, I can't wait to get to your quantum being. It's a book that I've started to read and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But I know that we have a lot that we need to speak about. We have come to a stage today, I think, where we've spoken about what your life has been thus far as a human being. Like I said in the beginning, what I sincerely hope is that for all that energy that you're bringing in here today, that even if it is 5 or 10 people who get impacted and inspired, I think we'll have done our job. That is my hope for people to watch this and to learn from it and get inspired wherever they are in their life's journeys. So
Yes.
I'd like to bring our session today to a logical close now, but not without saying that I really look forward to the next podcast too, which we will record very soon. So Shehnaz Soni, bowing to you. Thank you so much for keeping that spirit going. And we need more people like you. So thank you for doing what you're doing. More power to you.
Thank you, Avanti, for giving me this opportunity to speak. And I would say to all the listeners who's listening to this is that I really am ready to help humanity in the best way I could. And if anything resonates with you, if you have any question, if you want to reach out to me, please do. My website is simple. It's my first and last name.com, shehnazsoni.com. And I actually have one mission. I have many missions, but one of the mission I have is I want to teach light body activation to the whole humanity, because I believe that we can all heal ourselves at the DNA level. And I basically do this one workshop that you learn and then that's it. And then you can do it on your own, because I want to teach how to fish. So that way you can multiply that, and then we can keep multiplying it, because we have a whole earth to to create a heaven on earth. So just keep all that in mind.
I think we bring in so much hope, Shehnaz, with the kind of situations that we are in today, through Europe, through Middle East. I believe that there is a lot of helplessness and hopelessness that we are coming in contact with. But when I speak to people like you, I think there is renewed hope. There is strength that I get to keep going and to hang in there. So yes, definitely. And we'll, of course, put all your details in the description box. So please definitely reach out to Shehnaz if any of this or all of it makes a make. Just like it does to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.